Back in the day, lunch wasn't just a quick bite, it was an experience, a moment to savor the flavors of tradition and nostalgia. Whether it was a school lunch or a midday break at home, families found comfort in meals that were simple, filling, and often made with whatever was on hand. Today, let's take a walk down memory lane and honor those classic lunches that might just remind you of simpler times when a humble sandwich or hearty soup was the highlight of your day. 1. Classic tuna salad sandwich, 1960s. The mighty tuna salad sandwich, an icon of the 1960s lunchbox. If you were a kid in the 60s, chances are you knew the comfort of a tuna salad sandwich packed tightly between slices of soft white bread. It was the kind of lunch that both filled you up and satisfied that craving for something simple but tasty. There was nothing fancy about it, just tuna, mayo, and maybe a dollop of relish or a sprinkle of celery if your mom was feeling adventurous. And yet, for all its simplicity, this sandwich has stood the test of time, continuing to be a staple in many households today.
Classic tuna salad. It's a very simple salad, easy to make, and great to eat in the warmer weather.
The 1960s were a time when convenience foods were king, and the tuna salad sandwich fit right in. Canned tuna was affordable, easy to store, and let's face it, a little exotic. This wasn't just any sandwich, it was the sandwich that made you feel like you had something special. Whether you were packing it for a school lunch or eating it at the family kitchen table, it was always the right choice for a midday bite. In the post-war era, families were shifting to a faster-paced lifestyle. Time was precious, and ingredients had to work overtime. Canned tuna became a pantry hero, affordable and easily accessible to most families. It was the perfect way to turn a simple lunch into something that could feed an entire family without much hassle. To make a classic tuna salad, start with a can of tuna, preferably packed in water, though oil was an option for those feeling bold. Drain it well and transfer it to a mixing bowl. Add a few heaping spoonfuls of mayonnaise, this is where the magic happens, until it's creamy but not too runny. Then, stir in a little relish for sweetness and a dash of mustard for a slight tang. If you like a bit of crunch, finely chop some celery or onion and throw it in. Salt and pepper to taste, and mix until everything is evenly combined. Now, take 2 slices of white bread and generously spread your tuna mixture across one slice. Top it with the other, press gently, and voila. If you're feeling fancy, you can toast it to a golden crisp, but in the 60s, most people left it as is. Serve with a side of potato chips or a dill pickle for the full nostalgic experience. This sandwich isn't just food, it's a glimpse into a simpler time when lunch was about nourishment, convenience, and a dash of homemade love. 2. Salsbury Steak, 1950s. If you grew up in the 1950s, chances are you remember the comforting, hearty meal of Salsbury steak. This was the kind of dish that made its way onto dinner tables across America and even found its way into the lunchbox on occasion. Salsbury steak was a dependable, filling meal that didn't require a lot of fuss, but delivered big on flavor. Picture this. A savory ground beef patty smothered in rich brown gravy, served with a side of mashed potatoes and peas. It was the ultimate comfort food, satisfying, hearty, and perfect for the family meal of the day.
Salisbury steaks with that onion and mushroom gravy. A great meal for during the week. You serve this over some mashed potatoes, and it pairs very, very good with some sweet peas.
The 1950s were a time when the idea of modern convenience was just taking off. Women had entered the workforce in greater numbers, and time-saving cooking methods were a huge part of daily life. Freezer meals and prepackaged ingredients started appearing on supermarket shelves. But Salisbury steak wasn't something you needed to pop into the microwave. Not yet, anyway. It was a dish made from scratch, something you could prepare with affordable ingredients that stretched to feed the whole family. After World War II, there was a push toward prosperity and the promise of the American dream. Salisbury steak became a staple in the middle-class household, offering a cost-effective way to serve up a filling, meaty dish that felt special without being extravagant. With the rise of convenience foods and freezer dinners later on, Salisbury steak made the leap to the frozen aisle, becoming a convenient but still beloved option for busy families. Start by combining ground beef with breadcrumbs and egg, finely chopped onion, and a bit of salt and pepper. Mix it all together until just combined. Don't overwork the meat. Shape the mixture into oval-shaped patties. Heat some oil in a skillet and cook the patties until they're browned on both sides and cooked through. Set the patties aside and make the gravy in the same skillet. You'll need a bit of flour to thicken the pan drippings, then whisk in beef broth and a bit of Worcestershire sauce for depth of flavor. Let it simmer until it thickens into a rich, savory gravy. Pour the gravy over the cooked patties and serve with mashed potatoes or buttered noodles, along with a side of peas or green beans for a well-rounded meal. Salsbury Steak wasn't just about the patty. It was about the warm, comforting experience of sitting down to a meal that made you feel at home, no matter what. 3. Spam and eggs, 1940s. Spam and eggs may sound a little out of place in today's health-conscious world, but in the 1940s, this dish was not only practical, it was also a symbol of survival and resourcefulness. In a time when meat was rationed and families were struggling to make ends meet, Spam emerged as an unlikely hero in kitchens across America. During World War II and the Great Depression, canned meats like Spam became affordable, shelf-stable sources of protein, accessible to nearly every household. What made Spam so invaluable during this era was its ability to provide a filling, savory option in times of scarcity, especially when fresh meat was hard to come by. And while Spam has garnered a less than glamorous reputation in the years that followed, it was once as beloved as any other meat in the pantry, prized for its convenience and versatility. The 1940s were marked by wartime rationing, when families had to be resourceful and inventive with what was available. Fresh meat was in limited supply, and many people had to get creative with their meals. Spam, with its long shelf life and low cost, became a lifesaver for many. It offered a quick, easy way to stretch food budgets and fill hungry bellies. The combination of Spam and eggs became a go-to lunchtime favorite. It wasn't just a cheap meal, it was a satisfying, hearty dish that made the most of every ingredient, offering a balance of protein and fat that kept people full for hours. The dish was a perfect example of how people found joy in the simplicity of the ingredients available to them. Spam and eggs became a meal that you could whip up in minutes with very little effort. The saltiness of the Spam and the richness of the eggs combined to create a savory, comforting meal that kept families nourished. What Spam lacked in glamour, it made up for in practicality. And when paired with eggs, another inexpensive and widely available ingredient, it became a dish that was not only filling, but also nutritious. To make Spam and eggs, start by slicing a can of Spam into thick slices, heat a bit of oil in a frying pan over medium heat, and fry the Spam slices until they are golden and crispy on both sides. While the Spam is cooking, crack a couple of eggs into the pan and fry them sunny side up, scrambled, or however you like. The savory, salty flavor of the Spam pairs perfectly with the creamy richness of the eggs. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and if you're feeling adventurous, add a little hot sauce, mustard, or even a dash of Worcestershire sauce for extra flavor. Serve this dish with a side of toast or hash browns if you're craving a more substantial meal. Spam and eggs was a meal that took very little time to prepare, but it delivered plenty of satisfaction. For many during the 1940s, it represented more than just a meal. It was a taste of normalcy during a time of uncertainty and a quiet reminder that even in the toughest times, there was still a way to indulge in a comforting dish. 4. Meatloaf Sandwich, 1970s. In the 1970s, meatloaf wasn't just a beloved dinner, it quickly became a lunchtime hero too. Picture this: leftover meatloaf transformed into a hearty sandwich. It was a clever and delicious way to repurpose leftovers from the night before while still feeling like a fresh, satisfying meal. Sure, it wasn't the gourmet fare you'd find at today's trendy delis, but that was part of its charm. A thick slice of flavorful meatloaf, placed between two slices of soft bread and maybe topped with a little ketchup or mustard. This was comfort food at its most simple and satisfying. It offered just the right amount of nourishment without any fuss, making it the perfect choice for busy families on the go. The 1970s were a time when efficiency in the kitchen was paramount. Families were getting busier, with both parents often working outside the home. As a result, meals had to be quick, filling, and easy to prepare. Meatloaf, with its affordability and ability to feed a crowd, quickly became a go-to dish. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, eggs, and a handful of other pantry staples were all it took to create a delicious, hearty meal. And what's more efficient than turning a leftover dinner into an entirely new, satisfying lunch the next day? The Meatloaf Sandwich was a perfect example of how the 1970s embraced resourcefulness in the kitchen, where making the most out of leftovers was both practical and celebrated. The decade was one of shifting roles and values, especially in the kitchen, where women's roles were evolving and families began to embrace convenience. At the same time, there was a growing appreciation for making meals stretch further without compromising on flavor. The Meatloaf Sandwich was the ultimate representation of this ethos, ensuring nothing went to waste while also delivering a meal that was comforting and fulfilling. Leftovers became a badge of honor, and a meatloaf sandwich was a quick, easy way to transform dinner into lunch without any added stress. To make this simple yet delightful sandwich, start with leftover meatloaf. Whether it's the classic beef variety or a more creative blend of ground pork, veal, or even turkey. Slice the meatloaf into thick portions, then grab whatever bread you have available, whether it's white, wheat, or a crusty roll. For a little extra flavor, spread a thin layer of ketchup or mustard on one slice of bread. Feel free to get creative with your condiments. Layer the slice of meatloaf onto the bread, place the second slice on top, and press gently to combine. If you prefer your sandwich toasted, toss it in a hot skillet and brown it on both sides until the bread is crispy and golden. Serve your meatloaf sandwich with a side of chips, a pickle, or even a small salad to complete the meal. The beauty of the meatloaf sandwich lies not only in its simplicity, but in the comfort it brings, offering a quick, easy, and nostalgic lunch that brings the family back to the table no matter how busy life gets. It's more than just a meal, it's a reminder of the small joys that come from making the most of what you have. 5. Deviled eggs, 1930s. Deviled eggs, those little bites of creamy, tangy goodness that seem to appear at every picnic, party, and family gathering in the 1930s. If there was one dish that captured the spirit of making do with what you had and turning it into something special, it was deviled eggs. Simple in concept, but rich in flavor, deviled eggs were both a budget-friendly option and a way to show off your culinary creativity. In the 1930s, life was often hard, especially during the Great Depression, but people learned to make the most of what they had. Eggs were cheap, accessible, and versatile, perfect for a quick snack or light lunch. The humble hard-boiled egg was transformed into something a little more luxurious, with just a few pantry staples like mayonnaise, mustard, and paprika. With a sprinkle of seasoning and a touch of creativity, you had an appetizer or lunch that could be served at any social gathering, making it feel like a treat, even when times were tough. During the Great Depression, people had to get creative with what they had. The deviled egg became a symbol of resourcefulness. It took a basic, inexpensive ingredient and elevated it to something that felt special. In a time when fresh produce and expensive meats were luxuries, deviled eggs were a way to stretch a little bit of protein into a meal that was both satisfying and simple. To make deviled eggs, start by hard-boiling your eggs. Boil them until the yolks are firm, and then let them cool completely. Once cooled, slice them in half lengthwise and remove the yolks. Mash the yolks with a fork until smooth, then mix in a generous spoonful of mayonnaise, a teaspoon of mustard, and a pinch of salt and pepper. For a bit of extra zing, add a splash of pickle juice or a dash of paprika. Spoon or pipe the yolk mixture back into the egg whites and top each one with a sprinkle of paprika for that classic deviled egg look. These little bites may seem simple, but deviled eggs hold a special place in the heart of many who remember the 1930s. Whether as part of a family meal or an elegant side dish for a gathering, they were a delicious reminder that you could always make something wonderful, no matter how little you had. 6. Peanut butter and jelly, 1930s to 50s. Is there a lunch more iconic, more quintessentially American than the peanut butter and jelly sandwich? It's a meal that has survived generations and continues to be a go-to favorite for both kids and adults. The humble PB&J is more than just a quick snack. It's a slice of culinary nostalgia, evoking memories of childhood lunches, simple pleasures, and the comfort of knowing exactly what you're getting with every bite. Its simplicity and universality have made it a timeless classic, and for many, it's the very definition of comfort food.
You gotta put peanut butter on both slices of bread and then the jelly in the middle.
What?
During the Great Depression of the 1930s, when money was tight and food was scarce, families had to get creative with what they could afford. Peanuts, which were abundant and inexpensive, became an essential part of many households. Peanut butter, being a cheap source of protein, quickly found its way into American kitchens as a budget-friendly way to nourish growing children. It was a filling, hearty option that could stretch the food budget and keep hunger at bay. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches became a beacon of affordability, providing a satisfying meal that was as easy to prepare as it was delicious. By the 1940s and 50s, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich had cemented itself as the ultimate school lunch and everyday snack. It was the perfect balance of savory and sweet, combining the richness of peanut butter with the fruity, sugary goodness of jelly or jam. In a time when many families were looking for quick, convenient meals, The PB&J was both simple and satisfying, ideal for busy parents and children alike. The sandwich could be made in mere minutes, which was crucial in the fast-paced post-war era when convenience was becoming a key component of everyday life. Making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich couldn't be simpler. Grab 2 slices of bread, typically white or whole wheat, and spread a generous layer of peanut butter on one slice. Then, spread your favorite jelly or jam on the other eye. Grape, strawberry, or even raspberry, depending on your childhood memories. Press the slices together and you've got a sandwich that's as easy as it gets. For a fun twist, you could toast the sandwich, giving it a warm, melty interior and a crispy exterior. Serve it with a side of chips, a glass of milk, or just enjoy it on its own. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich has truly stood the test of time. Whether in the midst of the Great Depression, during the busy post-war years, or even today, it's a meal that offers comfort, satisfaction, and a touch of nostalgia. It remains a beloved go-to meal, proving that sometimes the simplest dishes are the ones that endure, nourishing both the body and the soul. 7. Pimento cheese sandwiches, 1960s. If you ever found yourself in the South during the 1960s, chances are you'd encounter pimento cheese at every potluck, picnic, and lunch gathering. Known affectionately as Southern caviar, this creamy, cheesy spread was more than just a simple sandwich filling. It was an emblem of Southern comfort food. The combination of sharp cheddar cheese, sweet pimentos, and tangy mayonnaise created a flavor that was simple, satisfying, and distinctly Southern. Though often served as a spread, pimento cheese made its way into sandwiches, crackers, and celery sticks, and it quickly became a favorite that still has a special place in Southern kitchens today. The 1960s were a time of significant cultural and social change, but one thing that remained constant in many Southern homes was the beloved pimento cheese sandwich. It was made with ingredients that were readily available, inexpensive, and could be prepared quickly, ideal for busy families balancing work and home life. While the sandwich was often the go-to option for a quick lunch, pimento cheese was also a favorite dip for crackers or vegetables, especially at gatherings. Despite being a simple dish, the creamy, tangy spread felt indulgent, making it a meal or snack that satisfied without being overly complicated. Pimento cheese is a true Southern creation, dating back to the early 1900s when it was a favorite in Southern homes. However, it really gained traction as a mainstay in the 1960s. It represented the resourcefulness of Southern cooking, where even the most humble ingredients were transformed into something delicious and comforting. The 1960s also marked an era where convenience was becoming key, and pimento cheese was a perfect example of how pantry staples could be turned into an easy meal or snack. This made it a quick go-to option for families who were looking for something quick yet packed with flavor. To make a classic pimento cheese sandwich, start by shredding a good quality sharp cheddar cheese, which forms the base of the spread. Add a jar of pimentos, drained and finely chopped, to the cheese, giving it that signature Southern touch. Stir in a generous amount of mayonnaise to create a creamy mixture that can easily be spread. For a little extra flavor, add a touch of mustard to bring in some tanginess, and season with salt, pepper, and, if desired, a pinch of garlic powder or cayenne pepper for a bit of heat. The result is a creamy, cheesy, slightly spicy spread that can be used generously between 2 slices of soft white or wheat bread. For a slightly more decadent version, toast the sandwich for a crispy, warm finish. Whether served as a sandwich or a dip, pimento cheese remains a Southern staple, bringing back memories of simpler times when comfort food was all about making the most of basic ingredients to create something truly satisfying. This humble spread continues to hold a cherished place in Southern culinary traditions, offering both nostalgia and comfort with every bite. 8. Hot dog with potato salad, 1940s. The hot dog, often associated with summer barbecues, family picnics, and baseball games, truly had its moment of glory in the 1940s as a lunchtime staple. Paired with creamy potato salad, this dynamic duo became the epitome of a simple, hearty meal during a time when families had to make do with limited resources. Hot dogs and potato salad weren't just reserved for special occasions or cookouts. They became regular fixtures in lunchboxes, served at picnics, and even enjoyed at family gatherings. Though hot dogs may seem like a straightforward dish on their own, it was the addition of potato salad that elevated the meal, making it feel like a real treat. The The 1940s was a decade shaped by recovery and rebuilding after the Great Depression and World War II. Families were still feeling the effects of hardship, and the necessity of making every meal count was paramount. With meat often rationed and budgets tight, meals had to be filling, affordable, and easy to prepare. Enter the hot dog, cheap, easy to cook, and versatile enough to be served in a variety of ways. Paired with potato salad, a dish that could be made in large quantities using inexpensive ingredients like potatoes, eggs, and mayonnaise, this meal was the perfect solution to feed a family without breaking the bank. Hot dogs became a popular choice in the 1940s, not just because they were cost-effective, but because they were also packed with protein, making them a great way to provide nutrition without the need for more expensive cuts of meat. Potato salad, on the other hand, was simple to make and could be stretched to serve several people. It was a filling side dish, offering a cool, creamy contrast to the hot dog's savory warmth. The combination of the two was comforting in its simplicity, no frills, just good food that could be enjoyed by everyone at the table. To make a classic hot dog with potato salad, start by boiling your hot dogs in water until they are heated through, or grill them to your preferred level of crispiness. The grilling method adds an extra layer of smoky flavor that complements the savory sausage. For the potato salad, begin by boiling potatoes until they're tender, then chop them into bite-sized pieces. In a large bowl, combine the potatoes with hard-boiled eggs, finely chopped onions, and a generous amount of mayonnaise. Season with salt and pepper, and add a little mustard for tanginess. Some people also like to add relish or pickles for an extra bite, offering a sweet contrast to the creaminess of the salad. Once the salad is well mixed, chill it in the refrigerator until it's ready to serve. Serve the hot dog, topped with mustard, ketchup, or your preferred condiments, alongside the chilled potato salad. This meal was affordable, easy to make, and deeply satisfying, a lifeline for many families during the 1940s. It continues to be a nostalgic reminder of a time when meals were all about comfort, practicality, and making the most of what you had. Today, the hot dog with potato salad remains a classic that evokes fond memories of simpler times, symbolizing the resourcefulness and warmth of family meals during the post-war years. 9. Chicken pot pie, 1950s to 60s. Few dishes evoke the kind of nostalgic warmth and comfort that a good old-fashioned chicken pot pie does. A true American classic, chicken pot pie was the ultimate comfort food during the 1950s and 1960s, a time when families craved hearty meals that were both satisfying and economical. With its flaky golden crust and creamy filling, this dish became synonymous with family dinners and the kind of home-cooked meals that brought everyone together after a long, busy day. Whether it was a weeknight dinner or a special meal for a Sunday gathering, chicken pot pie offered something both delicious and reassuring. A warm, filling meal made with simple, humble ingredients. The post-war years were a time of great cultural change, but one thing that remained constant was the desire for meals that were both comforting and practical. With many households still feeling the effects of the Great Depression, families wanted meals that were not only affordable, but also nourishing and fulfilling. Chicken pot pie became a perfect solution. It was a meal that could easily be made from leftover chicken, vegetables like peas and carrots, and a rich, creamy sauce, all tucked into a buttery pie crust. The beauty of chicken pot pie lay in its simplicity. With pantry staples and a few basic ingredients from the fridge, it was a dish that many families could prepare without much effort, making it both budget-friendly and delicious. As the 1950s and 60s wore on, convenience began to play a bigger role in everyday life, and frozen food options were on the rise. Frozen chicken pot pies started appearing in grocery stores, offering busy families a quick alternative to the time-consuming homemade version. While the frozen versions provided a convenient option, many still preferred the homemade variety with its freshly made crust and creamy filling, which served as a comforting reminder of family time spent in the kitchen. The homemade version was always associated with love and care, while the frozen kind, though convenient, lacked the warmth and richness of the homemade classic. To make a traditional chicken pot pie, start by cooking chicken and vegetables, typically peas, carrots, and potatoes, until they're tender. Then, create a creamy sauce by melting butter, adding flour to make a roux, and whisking in milk until the mixture thickens. Combine everything together in a pie dish, and for an extra touch of flavor, add a pinch of thyme or a splash of cream for richness. Roll out a sheet of pastry dough and cover the dish, sealing the edges and making a few slits in the top to allow steam to escape. Bake in a preheated oven until the crust is golden brown and the filling is bubbly and hot. Chicken pot pie quickly became a beloved household favorite, symbolizing the beauty of home-cooked meals made with love and practicality. It was a dish that brought families together, with each bite offering a reminder of simpler times, when food was about comfort, togetherness, and making the most of what you had. Today, chicken pot pie remains a nostalgic comfort food, one that continues to bring warmth and happiness to the dinner table. 10. Cabbage soup, 1940s to 50s. Cabbage soup was a staple during the 1940s and 1950s, a humble yet comforting dish that provided warmth and sustenance during difficult times. Whether served as a main course or a hearty side, cabbage soup made use of inexpensive ingredients, creating a filling meal that could feed an entire family without breaking the bank. Cabbage, one of the most affordable and accessible vegetables, was the star of this simple but satisfying soup. It was a dish that showcased the ingenuity of home cooks, who used whatever was available in the pantry and fridge to create something nourishing and delicious. During the Great Depression and World War II, families faced the challenges of rationing, scarcity, and the need to feed their loved ones with tight budgets. Fresh meat was often a luxury, and many families turned to affordable staples like cabbage, potatoes, and carrots to build their meals. Cabbage, in particular, was a reliable vegetable. It was inexpensive, easy to grow, and could be stored for long periods without spoiling. It became a go-to ingredient for many during these tough times, prized for its versatility and filling nature. In the 1940s and 1950s, families became masters of using what they had on hand to make nutritious and hearty meals, and cabbage soup was a perfect example of this resourcefulness. The beauty of cabbage soup was in its adaptability. It was a blank canvas that could be tailored to whatever ingredients you had available, making it an ideal dish for families trying to stretch their food budgets. A handful of vegetables, a little stock, and perhaps some leftover meat could be transformed into a flavorful and satisfying soup. The cabbage itself, when simmered in broth, provided a rich, savory base that was both hearty and satisfying. If you had a bit of ham, sausage, or bacon on hand, these could be added for extra flavor, but even without meat, cabbage soup was still filling and delicious. To make cabbage soup, begin by sautéing onions and garlic in a pot with a little oil or butter until they're fragrant and golden. Then add chopped cabbage, carrots, and any other vegetables you have on hand, potatoes, celery, or even peas. Pour in vegetable or chicken broth to cover the vegetables, and season the soup with salt, pepper, and a pinch of thyme or bay leaves for extra depth of flavor. Let the soup simmer for at least 30 minutes until the cabbage is tender and the flavors have melded together. If you have some leftover meat, like ham bones or sausage, you can add it to enrich the soup further. The result is a hearty, nourishing dish, perfect for cold days or as a comforting lunch. Cabbage soup wasn't just a meal. It was a reflection of a time when people made do with what they had and transformed simple ingredients into something both beautiful and filling. It was a meal that embraced practicality while offering the comfort of a warm, home-cooked dish, reminding us that sometimes the simplest meals are the most satisfying. Whether during the hardships of the Great Depression or the post-war era, cabbage soup remains a symbol of resilience, resourcefulness, and the power of good food to bring people together. 11. Tuna noodle casserole, 1950s to 60s. Tuna noodle casserole is one of those dishes that feels like a warm hug from the past. A true American classic, this comforting casserole became a go-to family meal in the 1950s and 1960s. During a time when convenience was becoming more valued in the kitchen, this casserole stood as a testament to how simple ingredients could come together to create something hearty, satisfying, and comforting. Tuna noodle casserole didn't require any special or expensive ingredients, yet it always hit the spot and was an instant crowd pleaser. The combination of canned tuna, egg noodles, creamy mushroom soup, and a crispy breadcrumb topping made it a cheap and easy way to feed a hungry family without much effort or time. For many busy moms balancing work, home life, and everything in between, tuna noodle casserole was the perfect solution. It offered a hearty meal that could be whipped up quickly with ingredients that were already stocked in the pantry. At a time when the convenience of packaged goods was gaining traction, this casserole was a great example of the era's culinary shift. using pre-packaged products like canned soup and frozen vegetables to create a quick, filling dinner. For families on tight budgets, canned tuna became a pantry hero, cheap, shelf-stable, and an excellent protein that could be turned into a meal that stretched to feed the whole family. What started as simple pantry ingredients soon became a beloved comfort dish, often passed down through generations. The 1950s and 1960s were marked by a shift toward more streamlined cooking, and canned goods played an essential role in this transition. Tuna, in particular, was a staple in many households. When combined with egg noodles and a creamy sauce, it created a meal that felt indulgent, even though it was made with basic ingredients. The appeal of tuna noodle casserole wasn't just in how simple it was to make, it was in how it provided a sense of warmth and care, turning those humble ingredients into something nourishing. To make a tuna noodle casserole, start by cooking egg noodles according to the package instructions. While the noodles cook, open a can of tuna and drain it well. In a large mixing bowl, combine the tuna, cooked noodles, and a can of cream of mushroom soup. You can thin the mixture with a little milk or water to achieve the desired consistency. For added flavor and nutrition, stir in some frozen peas or other vegetables. Season the mixture with salt and pepper, then transfer everything to a greased casserole dish. Sprinkle breadcrumbs and a bit of grated cheese on top for an extra layer of flavor. Bake in the oven until the top is golden and crispy and the casserole is bubbly and hot. Tuna noodle casserole is the epitome of mid-century American comfort food, simple, satisfying, and filling. While it may not have been fancy, it was always there when you needed it most, offering warmth and nourishment in even the busiest of times. It became a beloved dish, passed down through families, and continues to be a nostalgic reminder of those simpler days when meals were made with love and practicality. Whether it was served after a long workday or as a weekend family gathering, tuna noodle casserole holds a special place in the hearts and kitchens of many. 12. Egg salad sandwich, 1940s to 50s. The egg salad sandwich, a simple yet satisfying dish, became a popular lunchtime favorite during the 1940s and 1950s. This humble sandwich had all the qualities of a classic comfort food, creamy, tangy, and filling, without needing any special or expensive ingredients. Eggs were cheap and easy to come by, and when paired with a bit of mayonnaise, mustard, and a sprinkle of salt and pepper, they transformed into a sandwich filling that was both affordable and delicious. Whether served at home, packed for lunch, or enjoyed at the picnic, the egg salad sandwich became a go-to meal during this post-war era. Eggs were a staple in many households in the 1940s and 50s, and they were often turned into a simple yet satisfying lunch option, like egg salad. The idea was to take an inexpensive protein, eggs, and combine it with a few pantry staples to create something filling. With the rise of more efficient food production and refrigerated goods, eggs became a key ingredient for sandwiches, salads, and other quick meals. The egg salad sandwich was also a great way to use up leftover hard-boiled eggs, making it a resourceful choice during a time when making the most of what you had was vital. To make a classic egg salad sandwich, start by boiling a few eggs until they are firm. Let them cool, then peel and chop them into bite-sized pieces. In a bowl, mix the eggs with a couple of tablespoons of mayonnaise, a squirt of mustard, and salt and pepper to taste. You can add a dash of pickle relish or a sprinkle of paprika if you're feeling a little more adventurous. Once mixed, spread the egg salad generously between 2 slices of soft bread like white or wheat. For a little extra flair, you can add a slice of lettuce or tomato for some freshness. The egg salad sandwich is an emblem of practicality and simplicity, a dish that fed families and filled lunchboxes during an era where easy, affordable meals were a necessity. It may not have been fancy, but it was always reliable, bringing both comfort and satisfaction in every bite. 13. Sloppy Joes, 1960s to 70s. Sloppy Joes are a true American classic that became popular in the 1960s and 1970s as a fun, hearty, and easy meal to serve the family. The appeal of a Sloppy Joe was simple. Ground beef cooked in a tangy, sweet sauce, served on a soft bun. It was the kind of messy, delicious sandwich that kids loved and parents could whip up quickly on a weeknight. The dish is so beloved that it still brings back memories of school cafeterias and casual family dinners for many people. The 1960s and 70s were marked by a desire for convenience, and Sloppy Joes fit that perfectly. They didn't require any complex ingredients, just ground beef, onions, ketchup, and a few pantry staples. The meal was affordable, filling, and easy to make in large batches, making it ideal for busy families. Sloppy Joes were often served at informal gatherings and school lunches, making it an iconic dish of the mid-20th century. It was a no-fuss meal that could be dressed up with a side of potato chips or a quick salad, making it both comforting and practical. To make Sloppy Joes, start by browning a pound of ground beef in a large skillet. Once the beef is cooked, drain any excess fat and add a finely chopped onion. Cook the onion until it's soft and translucent. Then stir in a generous amount of ketchup, a tablespoon of mustard, and a splash of Worcestershire sauce. For extra sweetness and tang, add a bit of brown sugar or vinegar depending on your preference. Let everything simmer together for about 10 minutes, allowing the sauce to thicken. Season with salt, pepper, and a pinch of garlic powder and taste for balance. Once the filling is ready, serve it on soft hamburger buns, ideally toasted to keep the sauce from making the bread soggy. For a little extra indulgence, you can add a slice of cheese on top before serving. Sloppy Joes are the perfect sandwich for a family meal. They're easy to make, satisfyingly messy, and always pack a punch of flavor. These sandwiches became a lunchtime staple in many American homes in the 1960s and 1970s, and they've remained a beloved dish ever since. Sloppy Joes capture the essence of comfort food. Simple ingredients, full of flavor, and guaranteed to bring back memories of carefree, delicious meals shared with family and friends. 14. Grilled cheese with tomato soup, 1960s. There are few meals as universally loved as the combination of a grilled cheese sandwich with a warm bowl of tomato soup. A quintessential lunch, this dish became a beloved staple in the 1960s, a comfort food that could be quickly whipped up on a cold day or as a simple after-school snack. It was a time when many households began embracing convenience without sacrificing heartwarming flavors, and this classic pairing fit right into that ethos. Grilled cheese was easy to make, inexpensive, and incredibly satisfying, while tomato soup, whether homemade or from a can, was the perfect partner, creamy and tangy, the perfect complement to the rich, buttery crunch of the sandwich. In the 1960s, processed foods were on the rise, and convenience was king in many kitchens. Canned tomato soup became a pantry staple, easy to heat and serve, making it the perfect pairing for the much-loved grilled cheese. While many meals during this time were focused on efficiency, the comforting simplicity of grilled cheese with tomato soup was never lost in the rush. It brought families together for a quick, tasty lunch, served on a chilly day, and often enjoyed at the kitchen table, paired with a glass of milk or a cup of hot cocoa. To make a classic grilled cheese, start by buttering 2 slices of bread on one side. Place a slice of cheese, usually American, though cheddar was a favorite too, between the slices of bread, buttered side facing out. Heat a skillet over medium heat and cook the sandwich, pressing it slightly to ensure the cheese melts and the bread crisps to golden perfection. Flip carefully and continue to cook until both sides are golden and crispy. For the tomato soup, if you're going for the canned variety, simply heat it on the stove according to package instructions, adding a little milk for creaminess if you like. If you're feeling adventurous, you can make a homemade version with fresh tomatoes, onions, garlic, and a touch of cream for extra richness. Serve the grilled cheese alongside the hot tomato soup, dunking the sandwich into the soup for the full experience. Grilled cheese with tomato soup is a simple dish that carries the weight of nostalgia and comfort, a timeless combination that has been warming hearts and bellies for generations. 15. Corned beef sandwich, 1950s. Corned beef sandwiches are a deli classic that became popular in the 1950s as a hearty, flavorful lunch option. The sandwich, piled high with tender, salt-cured beef, was served on rye bread, often with a generous spread of mustard or sauerkraut, making it a perfect combination of savory, tangy, and slightly sour. Corned beef, typically enjoyed during St. Patrick's Day festivities, found its way into regular lunch rotations as its bold, salty flavors made it a crowd pleaser. In the 1950s, convenience and meat-centric dishes were still key components of family meals, and corned beef offered a substantial, filling protein that could be used in a variety of ways. The corned beef sandwich became especially popular in delis, where the thick, hearty slices of corned beef were piled high and enjoyed by diners who were looking for a satisfying meal. Whether eaten for lunch or dinner, the corned beef sandwich became a fixture in American cuisine, blending tradition with mid-century modern flavors. Corned beef was often purchased as a pre-cooked or canned product, making it an easy and affordable lunch option. The sandwich was customizable, with variations like the addition of Swiss cheese or the tangy bite of sauerkraut, but the classic version stayed true to the simplicity of rye bread, corned beef, and mustard. To make a classic corned beef sandwich, start with 2 slices of rye bread. Spread a generous amount of mustard on 1 slice of bread, then layer on the corned beef. If you prefer, you can add a slice of Swiss cheese or pile on some sauerkraut to give it that extra bit of flavor. Close the sandwich, and for an even more indulgent meal, grill the sandwich in a pan with a bit of butter to crisp up the bread and melt the cheese. This sandwich, with its bold and savory flavor, became a lunchtime favorite that still graces menus today. The corned beef sandwich is a perfect example of a mid-century classic. Simple, satisfying, and always comforting. 16. Beef stew, 1960s. Beef stew was the kind of dish that you could rely on in the 1960s to provide warmth and comfort during the colder months. The slow-cooked, tender beef, paired with hearty vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and onions, created a meal that was both satisfying and filling. Beef stew represented a time when families gathered around the dinner table for a meal that took its time to prepare but delivered hearty rewards in every bite. In the 1960s, convenience was becoming more important in the kitchen, but there was still a deep appreciation for slow-cooked meals that made the most of affordable ingredients. Beef stew was a perfect example of this. It used inexpensive cuts of beef that, when simmered for hours, became tender and full of flavor. The result was a dish that stretched ingredients to serve a whole family while offering a satisfying meal that could be enjoyed over several days. Beef stew was also a versatile dish. While many people used a slow cooker or stovetop to prepare it, some families would cook it in large batches and store it for later, knowing that stew always tastes better the next day after the flavors had melded together. To make beef stew, start by browning chunks of beef in a bit of oil in a large pot. Once the meat is browned, remove it from the pot and sauté onions and garlic until fragrant. Add the beef back to the pot along with carrots, potatoes, and celery, and pour in beef broth. Season with salt, pepper, and herbs like thyme and bay leaves. Bring the mixture to a simmer, cover, and let it cook for about 2 hours or until the meat is tender and the flavors have developed. If you want to thicken the stew, you can make a slurry with flour and water, adding it in to reach your desired consistency. Beef stew was the ultimate comfort food in the 1960s, a dish that was made with love and patience, creating a meal that brought families together around the table, enjoying the richness of the broth and the tender meat and vegetables. It's a meal that's still cherished today, providing the same sense of warmth and satisfaction it did back in the 1960s. 17. Chili, 1950s to 60s. Chili, thick, hearty, and packed with flavor, was a dish that could warm you up on a cold day and fill you up without breaking the bank. By the 1950s and 1960s, chili had firmly established itself as an American classic, loved for its bold combination of ground beef, beans, and spices. It was versatile enough to be served as a standalone meal or piled on top of hot dogs, used as a topping for baked potatoes, or enjoyed with a side of cornbread. In the 1950s and 60s, families were looking for meals that could feed a crowd but also be made with affordable, easy-to-find ingredients. Ground beef, canned beans, and tomatoes made chili a practical choice. But what made it special was the layering of flavors. The richness of the beef, the warmth of chili powder, and the slight heat from spices like cayenne pepper. This dish was also incredibly customizable. Some families preferred it mild, others spicy, and variations included adding onions, garlic, and sometimes even a dash of cocoa powder for depth. In the post-World War II era, canned goods were gaining popularity, and chili was an ideal dish to make use of them. Whether you were using canned beans, tomatoes, or kidney beans, the simplicity of the ingredients made it possible to create a delicious, filling meal without hours of prep time. To make a classic chili, start by browning ground beef in a large pot. Once the beef is cooked through, drain any excess fat and add chopped onions, garlic, and bell peppers. Sauté until softened. Next, stir in a can of crushed tomatoes, a can of beans, kidney or pinto work well, and a couple of tablespoons of chili powder. Add salt, pepper, and a pinch of cayenne pepper for extra heat, if desired. Let the chili simmer for at least an hour, stirring occasionally to allow the flavors to meld. Serve the chili hot with toppings like shredded cheese, sour cream, and chopped green onions. A slice of cornbread or a handful of crackers will complete the meal. Chili wasn't just a meal, It was a cozy, flavorful experience that brought families together, offering comfort in every spoonful. 18. Tuna Melt, 1960s to 70s. The Tuna Melt, a hearty, warm sandwich that turned the classic tuna salad into something extra comforting, was born in the 1960s and quickly became a favorite in homes and diners alike. It took everything people loved about the simple tuna salad sandwich and elevated it by melting cheese over the tuna filling, creating the perfect balance of creamy, cheesy, and savory. The 1960s and 70s were decades where convenience was key, but people still wanted meals that were satisfying and flavorful. Canned tuna, already a pantry staple, became the base for this easy-to-make, comforting sandwich. The addition of cheese, typically Swiss, cheddar, or American, was the finishing touch that made the Tuna Melt irresistible. Whether served for lunch or dinner, it became a favorite for families who wanted something filling and warm without spending too much time in the kitchen. In the 1960s, the rise of convenience foods and frozen dinners also made it easier to experiment with simple ingredients to create something a little more special. The Tuna Melt fit perfectly into that trend, taking two classic lunch items, tuna salad and grilled cheese, and marrying them into one. To make a tuna melt, start by preparing the tuna salad. Combine canned tuna with mayonnaise, a bit of relish or diced onion, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Spread the tuna mixture onto a slice of bread, white or whole wheat works best. Then place a slice of cheese over the tuna and top it with another slice of bread. Butter the outsides of the sandwich and grill it in a hot skillet until both sides are golden and the cheese has melted. For an extra boost of flavor, you can add a thin layer of mustard or a few slices of tomato before grilling. Once it's done, cut the sandwich in half and serve with a side of chips, a pickle, or a small salad. The Tuna Melt was more than just a meal. It was a warm, cheesy slice of nostalgia that turned an everyday lunch into something special. 19. Meatball Sandwich, 1950s to 60s. The Meatball Sandwich, a warm, savory treat that captured the essence of American comfort food in the 1950s and 1960s, became a lunchtime favorite across the country. A mix of tender, flavorful meatballs smothered in rich marinara sauce, all tucked into a soft hoagie or sub roll, this sandwich was hearty, filling, and packed with flavor. For many families in the post-World War II era, it was a perfect meal to prepare in advance and serve for lunch, dinner, or even on a busy Saturday afternoon. In the 1950s and 60s, meatball sandwiches became popular thanks to the growing love for Italian-American cuisine, which was being embraced across the country. Pasta, pizza, and meatballs made their way into homes, kitchens, and lunch menus everywhere. Meatball sandwiches were an affordable option that turned ground beef into a satisfying meal. While they were often served as a sub or sandwich, they were also commonly enjoyed in diners or served at casual gatherings. To make meatball sandwiches, you'll first need to prepare the meatballs. Combine ground beef with breadcrumbs, eggs, and Italian seasoning like oregano, garlic powder, and parsley. Roll the mixture into small meatballs and bake them in the oven until browned. While the meatballs cook, heat some marinara sauce in a saucepan and let it simmer to bring out the rich flavors. Once the meatballs are cooked, drop them into the sauce and let them simmer for a few minutes to soak up all the goodness. To assemble the sandwich, grab a hoagie or sub roll, slice it down the middle, and lightly toast it if you like a little crunch. Place a few meatballs into the roll, then spoon over some marinara sauce and top with a generous amount of shredded mozzarella cheese. If you want an extra layer of flavor, you can also sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on top before serving. The meatball sandwich was a favorite comfort food of the 1950s and 1960s, a perfect example of how simple ingredients could be combined to create a meal that was both hearty and comforting. Whether enjoyed on its own or served as part of a larger family meal, it remains a beloved dish to this day. 20. Chef Salad, 1950s to 60s. The chef salad is one of those dishes that takes a simple combination of ingredients and transforms them into a delightful, filling meal. Popular in the 1950s and 1960s, this salad became the go-to choice for people looking for something light yet hearty for lunch or dinner. A chef salad is essentially a composed salad, where the ingredients are neatly arranged rather than tossed, making it both a visual and a culinary treat. With its mix of crisp greens, tender meats, hard-boiled eggs, and creamy dressing, the chef's salad had all the elements to make it a complete meal. In the 1950s and 1960s, salad bars were becoming increasingly popular, and the chef's salad epitomized the salad as a meal trend. It offered variety and balance, with fresh vegetables, protein, and a bit of indulgence from cheese and dressing. A typical chef's salad was made with iceberg lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and a mixture of cold cuts such as ham, turkey, or roast beef. Hard-boiled eggs, shredded cheese, often Swiss or cheddar, and a dollop of dressing, usually ranch, blue cheese, or Thousand Island, tied everything together. This salad was perfect for the mid-century family, where home-cooked meals had to be hearty, quick, and visually appealing. It could be prepared in advance for busy weekdays or served as a light meal for gatherings. It was also adaptable, allowing for easy substitutions based on what you had in the fridge. For example, if you didn't have turkey, you could swap in chicken or even a few slices of bologna for a twist. To make a classic chef salad, start by laying a bed of crisp iceberg lettuce on a large platter. Top with neatly arranged slices of cold cuts, typically ham, turkey, or roast beef, and scatter some shredded cheese on top. Add sliced tomatoes, cucumbers, and a few radishes for color. Quarter a couple of hard-boiled eggs and place them around the salad. For a little extra crunch and flavor, you can add some croutons or olives. Drizzle with your choice of dressing and serve immediately. The chef's salad was more than just a salad. It was a complete meal in a bowl, offering a satisfying combination of textures and flavors. It's a dish that remains a nostalgic reminder of simpler times, when lunch could be both wholesome and elegant in its simplicity. 21. Frozen pizza, 1970s. The rise of frozen pizza in the 1970s marked a revolutionary shift in how American families approached mealtime. With the busy pace of modern life, the desire for convenience grew, and frozen pizza perfectly fit the bill. It wasn't just a frozen meal, it was a cultural phenomenon, turning pizza from a special treat into an everyday convenience. Before the 70s, pizza was often a rare indulgence, enjoyed at pizzerias or homemade for special occasions, but once frozen pizzas hit the scene, they became an affordable, quick, and satisfying meal that families could enjoy at home any night of the week. Frozen pizza was a symbol of the 1970s, a decade known for its embrace of convenience foods and time-saving innovations. The appeal was undeniable, a meal that could be ready in under 30 minutes, with minimal preparation required. For many, the introduction of frozen pizza was a game changer, making pizza night a regular part of the week instead of an occasional treat. As frozen food technology improved, so did the quality of frozen pizza. By the 70s, pizzas came with all sorts of toppings, from the basic cheese and pepperoni to more elaborate combinations with vegetables, sausage, and even extra cheese. To make a frozen pizza, all you had to do was preheat the oven, remove the pizza from its box, and pop it in. It was simple, no mess, no fuss. The cheese melted, the crust crisped up, and the toppings bubbled in a delicious, cheesy harmony. Whether you were feeding a family or having a casual get-together with friends, frozen pizza made it easy to serve up a meal without spending hours in the kitchen. The 1970s saw a boom in pizza consumption, with the frozen variety becoming a household staple. Frozen pizza was also an affordable option for families on a budget. You could buy a frozen pizza for a fraction of the cost of ordering delivery, and it was often just as satisfying. Whether enjoyed by children after school or as a quick dinner for busy parents, frozen pizza became the ultimate convenience food of the 1970s. Though frozen pizza has evolved over the years, its nostalgic place in American kitchens remains. It was a dish that signaled a new era of fast, easy, and satisfying meals, and for many, it's still a beloved comfort food today. 22. Baked Ziti, 1960s to 70s. Baked ziti is a quintessential comfort food that became a family favorite in the 1960s and 1970s. This Italian-American classic combines the hearty goodness of pasta with the rich, satisfying flavors of marinara sauce, cheese, and often a hint of garlic or herbs. While ziti itself is a simple pasta shape, when baked with tomato sauce and melted mozzarella, it turns into a delicious, filling dish that has stood the test of time as a go-to family meal. The 1960s and 70s were years marked by the growing popularity of Italian-American cuisine. Families were starting to embrace pasta dishes as part of their regular meal rotations, and baked ziti, along with its cousin lasagna, became a staple in many American homes. The appeal of baked ziti was simple. It was affordable, easy to prepare, and could feed a crowd. In a time when families were getting busier, baked ziti became the perfect solution for dinner parties, large family gatherings, or a cozy family meal at home. The dish also worked well as leftovers, making it even more attractive for busy households. To make baked ziti, start by cooking the ziti pasta in a large pot of boiling salted water until it's al dente. While the pasta cooks, heat a large skillet and sauté some garlic in olive oil until fragrant. Add a jar of marinara sauce or homemade tomato sauce, letting it simmer for a few minutes to deepen the flavors. Drain the pasta and then toss it into the sauce, ensuring the pasta is well coated. Transfer half of the pasta and sauce mixture into a baking dish, then layer a generous amount of ricotta cheese or cottage cheese on top. Sprinkle a hearty amount of shredded mozzarella cheese and some grated Parmesan. Add the rest of the pasta and sauce mixture, then top with more cheese. Bake in a preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 30 minutes until the cheese is golden and bubbly. Baked ziti is often served with a side of garlic bread and a simple salad, making for a meal that's both filling and comforting. The combination of gooey cheese, tangy tomato sauce, and tender pasta makes it a beloved dish that's both easy to prepare and deeply satisfying. Whether shared around the dinner table with family or served at a casual gathering, baked ziti remains a classic that has earned its place in the hearts of many. 23. Chicken and dumplings, 1950s to 60s. Chicken and dumplings is one of those meals that brings warmth to both the body and the soul. This classic comfort dish, popular during the 1950s and 1960s, has its roots in Southern and Midwestern cooking traditions, where hearty, filling meals were necessary to nourish families through long, cold winters. With its tender chicken, savory broth, and soft, pillowy dumplings, it was the kind of meal that would make you feel at home, no matter where you were. In the 1950s and 1960s, chicken and dumplings became a popular dish for families looking for both comfort and convenience. While it's often made from scratch with a whole chicken, many families during this time relied on pre-cooked rotisserie chicken or canned broth to simplify the process. This was the post-war era, when convenience foods were becoming a major trend, yet people still cherished the warmth and simplicity of home-cooked meals. Chicken and dumplings fit the bill perfectly. It was easy to prepare, could be made in large batches, and was the ideal dish for family meals. To make chicken and dumplings, begin by simmering a whole chicken in a large pot with water, onions, carrots, celery, and a bay leaf. Once the chicken is tender and cooked through, remove it from the pot and shred the meat, discarding the skin and bones. Return the shredded chicken to the pot and add salt, pepper, and any desired seasonings. Meanwhile, mix together flour, baking powder, salt, and a bit of milk to make the dumpling dough. Drop spoonfuls of the dumpling mixture into the simmering broth, cover the pot, and let the dumplings cook for about 15 minutes until they are light and fluffy. Once the dumplings are cooked, serve the dish hot with a sprinkle of fresh parsley or thyme on top. The creamy broth, tender chicken, and soft dumplings combine to create a meal that is comforting and filling. Chicken and dumplings is a perfect dish for a cold day or a busy evening when you want something that feels like a warm embrace from the kitchen. It's a timeless classic, one that continues to evoke memories of family gatherings and slow-cooked comfort. 24. Instant ramen, 1970s. Instant ramen, the meal that revolutionized quick, inexpensive eating, emerged as a staple of 1970s American kitchens, becoming a cultural phenomenon that has lasted for decades. With its salty, savory broth, soft noodles, and the endless variety of flavors, instant ramen was an affordable, filling option for college students, busy workers, and anyone on a tight budget. As convenience food took off in the 1970s, instant ramen perfectly embodied the era's desire for cheap and fast meals, all while delivering a comforting taste that was universally loved. Though ramen originated in Japan, it was the instant variety that truly made its mark in the United States during the 1970s. The first packages of instant ramen were introduced to American markets in the late 1960s and quickly caught on in the 1970s as families began looking for quick and affordable meal options. A single packet of instant ramen could cost as little as 15 cents, making it an affordable choice for families, students, and single people alike. It became a meal that could be enjoyed in minutes, offering a flavorful, warm option that filled you up, even if you were on a tight budget. To make instant ramen, bring water to a boil in a small pot and add the ramen noodles and seasoning packet. The noodles cook quickly, usually in about 3-4 minutes, making it the ultimate fast meal. For an upgraded version, you can add a boiled egg, some chopped vegetables like scallions, or even leftover chicken or beef for added protein. The beauty of instant ramen lies in its versatility. You can dress it up or keep it simple, depending on what you have available. Instant ramen, once considered a quick meal for students or busy individuals, has since become a beloved comfort food in many cultures. Its rise to popularity in the 1970s is a testament to the changing landscape of food, the marriage of affordability and convenience that marked a shift in how people approached meals. Even today, instant ramen continues to be a nostalgic reminder of an era when meals were quick, satisfying, and always affordable. Whether enjoyed straight from the pot or customized with toppings, ramen has become an iconic part of modern food culture. As we close the lid on this nostalgic journey through the 1960s, 70s, and beyond, it's clear that these dishes weren't just about feeding our families. They were about bringing people together, sharing moments, and making the best of what we had. From the simple joy of a tuna salad sandwich to the comforting warmth of chicken and dumplings, each dish tells a story of resourcefulness, love, and the warmth of home-cooked meals. These meals were the building blocks of many a family dinner table, lunchbox, or late-night snack. They remind us of simpler times when food was a way to connect with each other, whether it was a quick tuna melt for lunch or a hearty bowl of chili shared with loved ones after a long day. They may not have been the most extravagant or fancy, but they were made with heart, and that's what made them unforgettable. As we look back at these meals, it's not just about nostalgia. It's about the memories they evoke, the comfort they still offer, and how food continues to be the foundation of togetherness. So, the next time you're craving a little taste of the past, reach for one of these dishes and savor the moments they bring. Because food, like time, is best when shared. Thank you for joining me on this culinary time travel. I hope these classic dishes inspire you to revisit the past and maybe even share some of these memories with your loved ones today. Until next time, happy cooking, and here's to the timeless meals that have been a part of our stories for generations.